It's Adrienne Lawrence once again, and this time I have Sunsara Taylor. That's a co-host of the RNL. That's Revolution, Nothing Less. The show you can catch on YouTube. She also happens to be the co-initiator of Rise Up for Abortion Rights. Thank you for joining us.
Adrienne, it's very good to be back with you.
Yes, under some unfortunate circumstances, as we are awaiting, which might just be the gutting of Roe v. Wade. I know yesterday there was thought that the Supreme Court would be dropping the opinion, but nothing came out. And I also know that you have been using your voice in a very powerful way. There was a May 26th Rise Up for Abortion Rights protest in Union Square in New York. And you had said, now is the time to lift our sights and dare. What must people do?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's true. The US Supreme Court, the highest court in the land in the most powerful country in the entire world, is on track to overturn Roe versus Wade, to revoke women's fundamental right to abortion, to control their own bodies, their destinies, their reproduction, their very humanity and their lives. This is a violent assault on behalf of humanity that is female. It is a massive injustice and it must be stopped. And the most important thing, it's true, like you said, this decision could drop any day between now and late June. We don't know when it will come, but it's very important. This is not yet the law. And now is the time, precisely like you were citing that I said, to lift our sights and dare to stop it before it becomes the law, because it is far harder to win a right back once you have lost it than to defend it while you still have it. And the majority of people in this country do not want to see women forced by the state to bear children against their will. That kind of patriarchal subordination and control over her very life, it shatters lives, it shatters dreams, it forecloses women's futures, it traps them in abuse. It is a nightmare that must not be allowed. The majority doesn't want it. We have to show it now. We can't be bystanders in a historic crime against women. We have to get out in the streets. We have to raise bloody hell. We have to wear the green bandana, the symbol of abortion rights. We need to shut this country down. And I've been citing a very powerful quote from Mario Savio. He was a leader in the free speech movement and the radical student movements of the 1960s. And in 1964, on Berkeley campus at the famous Sproul Plaza, he said this, and it's been quoted many times since, and it has never been more appropriate than now. He said, "There is a time when the workings of the machine become so odious, make you so sick at heart, that you can't take part. You can't even tacitly take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from functioning at all." And that is what we need to do throughout this society. In our millions in nonviolent struggle, bring the gears of society to a halt before we allow this right to be taken away.
And it seems like this is one of those things that we may have foolishly thought could never happen. It could never come to pass. And I think to some extent, I thought the same myself, thinking they're not dumb enough to reverse Roe v. Wade. That's just stupid. But clearly, they're pretty damn dumb. And it's very scary right now. And a lot of people think that overturning Roe is something that can't be stopped. But you definitely seem to believe that it can. Why do you think that it can?
Well, I think if we look at, first of all, the level of violation this would mean, how many lives would be shattered? How many lives will be upended? How many people deeply, 1 in 4 women has gotten an abortion. This country is filled with women as well as men who remember the dark days of back alley deaths and foreclosed lives before Roe v. Wade. This is a country filled with generations of women who have filled professional sports, professional broadcasting, academia, medicine, all the professions with women. This is dependent on women having access to abortion and birth control. So this is very central to women's lives and to the functioning and organization of society at this point. If we don't sleep on our power, if we don't sit back as bystanders and let this happen, there's a lot we can do. I don't have illusions that we're going to persuade Samuel Alito or Amy Coney Barrett or Clarence Thomas. We're not going to change their hearts and minds. But even the fascists on the courts, even they worry about their legitimacy. And if you had the kind of uprising, upheaval, outpourings that we saw in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, saying, no, we won't let you take away Roe v. Wade. We won't let you slam women backwards in this way. You could create the kind of situation where they have to calculate in the eyes of the world, not silent disapproval, privately bemoaning it, not just in the election booth where nobody sees and it's too late anyhow, but in the streets, visibly in mass resistance, taking over freeways, shutting down stadiums, all kinds of things that people can do non-violently. You could create a situation where they have to calculate their legitimacy in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of millions and millions here, and in the eyes of other governments around the world. That's something even the fascists on the courts care about. That's something the people in all the ruling institutions care about. And that's a power that the people have from below. We can only do that if we're visible. But that's how every real change has been won. You think about, how did voting rights get won? They weren't won by voting. They were won by people going into the streets, people doing hunger strikes, people going to jail again and again. How were any rights won? People broke the rules of how things are normally done. I'm talking about nonviolent action, but I'm talking about the power of the people very urgently.
Yeah, it's, I guess in part, I think the thing that really scares me or makes me reluctant to think that people will use their voice is because I see that this right definitely impacts women mostly than anyone else by and large. But I still feel so many women don't realize their power in our society. And they don't, yeah, and that scares me because we see people finally learn to stand up and push back, but there's so many people who are still so afraid. And we see so many, we've seen it in elections, white women cuddling up to white supremacy in order to feel like white men are gonna protect them, which is clearly not the case. People have been going against their best interests for too damn long. And the fact is that those in power in the majority are white. And I just don't necessarily see them using their voices to the extent that they can. In part because it'll impact us Black and brown people the most.
Well, I think your concerns are well-founded. They're very real. And in this country that is founded on white supremacy and has it woven into its fabric and fiber, it's exactly true. And that the identification of women themselves with patriarchy, with white supremacy, that's very profound in this country. But so is the reality. And this is something that has given me a tremendous amount of hope in this struggle that RiseUpForAbortionRights.org has been leading, is we have uncorked a wave. It's still too small, it's still a microcosm, but a fury, a righteous fury of women and young girls coming out in the streets and giving voice to a power that they didn't even know was within them. And we have seen, just you think about the millennia of women being treated as punching bags, as sex objects, as objects of sexual plunder, pimped out, beaten down, abused, shrouded, sold, treated as baby-making machines, property of men, less than, in so many ways, degraded, shamed if they're not virgins, shamed if they enjoy sex, shamed for all these things. All of the weight that sat on women for generations and generations. There is a fury that is pent up and that has begun to come out in the streets. Young women in these walkouts, high school, junior high, college-age young women, older women who have sat and choked on this shame and rage their entire lives, coming and turning that into a fury in the streets. And I believe, I don't think we're gonna win over all of the Christian fascist indoctrinated Trump supporting women. But I think if we uncork the fury of the women who don't like what's happening, and that powerful fury was unleashed, it is a force that can wake up and shake and terrify these fascists in the power structure. And it's infectious and it's contagious. And I would just say these youth have been out there. There have been others out there. To everybody who's watching this, everybody who knows it's wrong for a 12-year-old to be forced by the state to bear the child of her rapist uncle, or for any woman to be told that what you want to do with your body, with your life, doesn't matter, the state's gonna take it over. If you know that's wrong, don't sit back and let these youth stand up by themselves for their future. Don't foreclose their lives. Join with Rise Up for Abortion Rights. Come and sign up to be part of civil disobedience. If you're in a professional arena, organize your coworkers, take up the green bandana. If you have command influence, a stage, a platform, if you're a singer, an athlete, wear the green bandana wherever you go. This symbol came out of Argentina. It was taken up in Colombia. This was a symbol of struggle, fierce struggle. Women who rose up with no backing, no positions of power and authority. They rose up with right on their side and kept coming back and kept coming back. and grew, woke up the conscience of society, and they tore down the laws criminalizing abortion in these deeply Catholic, deeply patriarchal, deeply repressive societies. If they can do it there, make what everybody thought was impossible possible, we have a responsibility to do it here. And what we do here is going to affect women all over the world.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I know that whatever we do in the United States will reverberate everywhere across the world globally, especially in the nations that have pulled more of a far right government power structure. And I really do as well. I think that people do need to stand up and that we do need to rise up and speak up. And also bear in mind too that we Black women have been doing this for a long time. And we're also coming off of George Floyd and off of Buffalo. We are tired. We are tired of carrying the brunt of everyone's civil rights on our backs. And so if there is a time to stand up, now is it. But don't leave it on us anymore. That's what I need. I need other people to stand up. Because again, the vast majority of the rights that we have as women have been born on the backs of Black women who have stood up and have lost their lives and have suffered significantly. And so if you see a future for yourself and you want one for your loved ones, you will fight this and you are gonna stand up. And hopefully you're gonna take a little bit of the weight of the pressure off of us and stand up and push back. That is powerful and necessary. And I want to thank you so much for joining us, Sunsara. And can you tell us where can people get more information?
Yes, so I would recommend people go to the website, Rise Up 4, it's the number 4, abortionrights.org. There are actions being planned outside some of these fascist churches, in the streets to spread the green. There's mass civil disobedience. There's ongoing student actions, green graduations, ways for everybody to take part. I'd also invite everybody viewing who wants to understand, where does this come from? And what are the links, like you're describing, to the white supremacy that is so built into this society and being brought back to the surface with a revengist, a terror right now? What are the links between this and the assault on abortion and the system that we live under and its crimes around the world? Come watch the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show on Thursday nights. We dig into this. I'd love to have you on as a guest sometime, Adrienne. We have to both stand shoulder to shoulder in this struggle right now and dig into the roots of this and what it's gonna take to end it for once and all, because we should not have another generation going through exactly what you described.
Yes, no, thank you so much. And thank you for all the work you do. I know how passionate you are and how much you are advancing us. So thank you so much for putting in the work. I really appreciate it, Sunsara.
Thank you, Adrienne.
All right, take care.